AITA for refusing to help my sister move out after she left her kids with me for 3 days without warning. This is going to be long, so bear with me. I, 34F, have a sister, Lisa, 29F, who has 2 kids, ages 5 and 7. For years, Lisa and I have had a complicated relationship, partly because she's a bit unreliable and impulsive, and partly because I'm a bit of a control freak. We live about 30 minutes apart, and while I'm happy to help out occasionally, I have a pretty busy life with a demanding job and a partner. About a month ago, Lisa called me out of the blue, sounding frantic. She told me she was moving out of her current place and needed help. At first, I thought it was going to be a weekend thing, packing, hauling boxes, maybe watching the kids for a few hours. I was willing to help with that. What she actually wanted was for me to take care of her kids for 3 full days with almost zero notice because she had no other options. I was working from home that week, but my schedule was tight. I told her I could watch the kids for maybe a few hours here and there, but not full days. She insisted she had nowhere else to go and kept pressuring me. I asked if her kid's dad was available. He lives nearby, but doesn't see the kids often. She said he wouldn't be any help and that the kids would be coming with me right away. I felt trapped and said okay, but under protest. The kids arrived late in the evening with a bag and some toys, but no real plan. Lisa just left without much explanation. At first, I thought maybe she'd be back in a few hours, but days passed with no contact other than the occasional, vague thanks for watching. Meanwhile, I had to juggle my full-time job, my partner, and the kids who were clearly confused and missing their mom. The kids are great, don't get me wrong, but I'm not a parent. I don't have the patience or experience to manage them full-time. The youngest kept waking up several times a night, and the older one was acting out because of the stress. I tried to keep them on a routine, but it was hard. My partner was upset because our weekend plans were canceled, and I was exhausted. After 3 days, I finally texted Lisa, asking when she would be back and to please explain what was going on. She replied she was staying with a friend because her landlord had kicked her out suddenly, and she'd figure things out soon. I told her this was not okay. She can't just drop her kids on me with no notice or plan and then disappear. Lisa got defensive, saying I should have just helped more and been grateful she trusted me. She accused me of being selfish for refusing to help move her stuff after I'd already done so much. She said I was making her situation worse by not supporting her. Here's where the real conflict started. Lisa then asked me to help her move all her belongings the following weekend. She expected me to take time off work and help with heavy lifting, packing, and watching the kids again. I told her no. I explained I was not a moving company and that I didn't appreciate being treated like a free babysitter and laborer. She said I was ruining her life and the kids' lives by not stepping up. She told me I was family, and that family helps each other no matter what. I tried to explain that I want to help, but not at the expense of my own mental health and job. She blocked me on social media and hasn't spoken to me since. Now, my parents are involved. They think I should cut her some slack because she's going through a tough time and family should stick together. But I feel like Lisa took advantage of me and disrespected my boundaries. I didn't say no because I don't care about her or the kids. I said no because I have limits and she ignored them. So Reddit. AITA for refusing to help my sister move after she left her kids with me for 3 days without any notice or plan. Or should I have just put aside my own needs to support her no matter what? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to help my sister after she burned down my child at home. This is a long one, but I want to be as detailed and clear as possible because I'm honestly conflicted, but also feel strongly about my stance. So here goes. I, 32M, have a sister, 28F, who I grew up really close with until about 5 years ago when everything went downhill. We come from a working-class family, and our childhood home was this small but cozy house that our parents bought before I was born. It held a lot of memories for me: birthdays, holidays, family dinners, everything. After our parents passed away, Mom first, then Dad a couple years later, the house was left to both of us. We agreed to keep it in the family for as long as possible because it was more than just a property to us. Now, the part that complicates things, my sister has always had some issues with impulsiveness and bad decisions, especially financially. She's never been great with money or planning ahead. Over the years, she got into some questionable habits and made some choices that distanced her from me. I tried to help, but there was only so much I could do without enabling her. Fast forward to last year. My sister was living in the house rent-free while I moved across the country for work. I trusted her to keep the place safe and maintained because I wasn't there. I called her regularly, checked in, and expected the house to be looked after. Then, out of nowhere, I get a call from her in the middle of the night. The house was on fire. She explained that she was burning some trash in the backyard, and somehow the fire got out of control and spread to the house. The fire department arrived quickly, but the damage was extensive. The house was a total loss. I was devastated, obviously. The home was not only a sentimental place, but also a financial asset that we planned to preserve or eventually sell to help both of us. When I started to process the situation, my sister told me she couldn't afford to pay for any damages or contribute to rebuilding or buying a new place. She also admitted she wasn't very careful with the fire and kind of blamed herself for what happened. Here's where the conflict starts. My sister has since been asking me for financial help. She's asked me to lend her money so she can get a new place to live, cover her living expenses, and even help with rebuilding some of the memories we lost. She says she feels awful and wants to make it right, but needs my help to do so. I told her that while I'm sympathetic, I can't just hand her money after something like this. I said she should take responsibility for her actions instead of relying on me to fix things she broke. She argued that accidents happen, and I'm being harsh and unsupportive. She said family should stick together and that I'm being cold by refusing to help. The house was insured, but insurance didn't cover everything, especially sentimental items and some structural parts that were underinsured. We split the insurance payout equally, but now the house is gone and the insurance money is gone. I decided to use my half of the payout to invest and save for my future, as I had other financial obligations like a mortgage on my own place. I told my sister that if she wants to rebuild or buy somewhere else, she needs to figure out her finances and not expect me to fund her. She's been cold to me since then and has made some passive-aggressive comments about how I don't care and how I'm letting her drown. I don't want to lose my sister, but I also don't want to be taken advantage of or feel responsible for something that was preventable and caused by her negligence. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to financially help my sister after she burned down our childhood home, even though she's asking for my support? If it matters, I've helped her in the past with smaller financial issues, but this feels like a different level because it was a reckless act that led to massive loss. Thanks in advance for your opinions. AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her boyfriend to my wedding after his past caught up with us. So, this is going to be a long one, but I'll try to keep it as clear as possible. I, 32F, am getting married next summer, and I'm currently deep in the trenches of wedding planning. I have a younger sister, Emily, 28F, who's always been a bit of a wild card but generally good people. She started dating a guy named Mark about 6 months ago, and while I was initially happy for her, things have gotten complicated. To start, I need to give a bit of background on Emily and her relationship history. Emily has bounced around a few relationships over the years, some serious, some not, and honestly, I was a little wary when she told me about Mark. He seemed charming and polite at first, but I didn't get a very good vibe from him. Emily insisted he was different and that I was just being judgmental because I didn't know him well. Fair enough. A few months ago, during some casual conversation with a friend who works in the same industry as Mark, I accidentally learned some disturbing details about him. Apparently, Mark was involved in some serious shady stuff a few years back. We're talking legal trouble, allegations of fraud, and a messy breakup with his last girlfriend who accused him of emotional abuse. None of this was common knowledge because Mark managed to keep a pretty low profile after that. Naturally, this information concerned me a lot, especially given how close Emily and Mark seemed to be getting. I debated for weeks about whether to bring this up with Emily or just keep quiet. I didn't want to be the overbearing sister or cause unnecessary drama, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Emily deserved to know. When I finally decided to talk to her, I was gentle but honest. Emily got defensive and said I was digging up the past and that people change. She told me Mark had been open with her about his past and that she trusted him completely. I didn't want to push the issue further because it was her relationship, and I respected that. Fast forward to last month, I was at a family dinner with my parents and Emily, and Mark was there too. It was the first time I was seeing him in a while. Something about him still rubbed me the wrong way, but I tried to keep it civil. Then, during dinner, Mark started making some inappropriate comments about money and success that felt very manipulative and arrogant. It made everyone uncomfortable, but Emily just laughed it off. After dinner, my mom privately told me she had done some research on Mark herself and was equally concerned. Now, here's where things get tricky. I'm about 6 months out from the wedding, and Emily asked me if Mark could be a groomsman. At first, I said yes because I wanted to avoid conflict and didn't want to exclude him outright. But the more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt. I talked to my fiancé, and he agreed that if Mark's past and attitude were as bad as we thought, it would be a huge risk to have him so involved in the wedding. After a long conversation, I decided to tell Emily that Mark can't be in the wedding party, and I'd prefer if he didn't attend the wedding at all. I told her I wasn't comfortable having someone with that kind of history and attitude close to such an important day. Emily flipped out. She accused me of being controlling, of trying to sabotage her relationship, and said I was embarrassing her in front of her friends and family. She's now threatening to skip the wedding if Mark isn't invited. I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, I want my sister to be happy and be part of my wedding. On the other hand, I don't want to invite someone who might cause drama or harm the atmosphere. I even offered a compromise. Mark can attend as a guest, but not be part of the wedding party. But Emily isn't having it. So, AITA for telling my sister her boyfriend isn't allowed to be at my wedding after discovering his problematic past and current behavior? Or am I just protecting my big day from unnecessary drama? AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her emotional support dog to my wedding? I'm 28F, getting married in about 4 months, and the entire planning process has been a roller coaster. The main conflict I'm dealing with right now is about my sister, 32F, and her emotional support dog. This has become such a sticking point that I'm honestly worried it might ruin our relationship, but I don't think I'm in the wrong here. Let me start with some background. My sister has had anxiety and depression for years, and a couple of years ago, she got certified for an emotional support dog. A medium-sized rescue mutt named Max helps her cope with panic attacks and anxiety episodes, which I completely respect. I'm happy that she found something that helped her manage her mental health. Now about the wedding. We're having it at a fairly traditional venue, a historic mansion with beautiful gardens. The venue itself doesn't allow pets, aside from service animals. We've also been upfront about this rule from the beginning because we knew some guests would have allergies and because the venue has strict insurance policies about animals on the property. We have some family members who are allergic to dogs, including my dad and a few close friends, so we had to be careful. When I told my sister about the no pets rule during one of our family meetings about the wedding, she immediately pushed back, saying that Max is an emotional support animal and that she can't possibly be there without him. I reminded her that emotional support animals aren't the same as service dogs under the ADA and don't have the same legal rights in public spaces. Emotional support animals can be refused entry in many places, including private venues like ours. She then said Max is trained to be very calm and well-behaved, and she promised he wouldn't bother anyone. She asked if we could make an exception just for her because her anxiety spikes during big social events, and Max helps keep her grounded. She even threatened that she might not come at all if Max can't come. At that point, I felt stuck. I try to be empathetic because I love my sister and don't want her to feel excluded or anxious on my big day. But I also had to consider other guests, the venue's rules, and the fact that it's my wedding, not just about her comfort. I told her firmly that I couldn't make an exception. The venue's insurance would be voided if they found out about any animals that weren't service dogs, and we have to respect the guests who are allergic or afraid of dogs. I suggested she could bring Max to the rehearsal dinner or other less formal pre-wedding events, but not to the ceremony or reception itself. She got really upset and accused me of being insensitive and not understanding her mental health struggles. She said I was prioritizing guests over her well-being and that it made her feel like her needs weren't important to me. Our parents got involved, and they're split. My mom thinks I'm right about following venue rules and being fair to everyone, but my dad says I should have made special accommodations for my sister. I tried to explain that this is a safety and health issue, not a personal attack, but my sister won't hear it. She's been cold towards me ever since and hasn't committed to coming to the wedding. The rest of the family is starting to take sides, and it's turning into a mess. Now I'm wondering if I really am the asshole here. Should I have just let Max come despite the rules and allergies? Or was I right to put my foot down to keep the event safe and comfortable for everyone? I love my sister and don't want to lose her over this, but I also don't want to compromise on the wedding day logistics. So, AITA for telling my sister that Max can't come to the wedding? AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids stay with me after she demanded I babysit without notice? This all started about 2 months ago and has escalated into a full-blown family drama that I never expected to be caught up in. I, 32F, live in a modest but comfortable 2-bedroom apartment in a fairly quiet neighborhood. I work full-time as a graphic designer and have a pretty balanced life with some hobbies and friends. I'm pretty independent and have always tried to be responsible about my commitments. My sister, Jess, 28F, lives about an hour away with her husband and their 2 kids, a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. Jess and I have always had a somewhat complicated relationship. We're close enough, but she tends to be very demanding and often expects me to drop everything for her, especially when it comes to the kids. I have no kids of my own, and I don't mind babysitting occasionally, but I do have limits, and I've never been a fan of last-minute demands. 2 months ago, Jess called me out of the blue on a Friday evening and asked if I could watch her kids for the weekend. She said her husband had to travel for work last minute, and she had no one else to help. I told her I needed some notice, as I had plans and work commitments, but she was very insistent and kept pressing me to say yes. In the end, I reluctantly agreed because I felt bad and didn't want to leave her stranded. The weekend was rough. I wasn't used to having 2 young kids around 24/7, especially with no preparation. I had to rearrange my schedule, missed some important work deadlines, and was exhausted by Sunday night. After that weekend, I gently told Jess that I couldn't do last-minute babysitting again because it was too stressful and disruptive for me. She seemed annoyed but didn't push it further. Then about 3 weeks ago, she texted me on a Wednesday morning asking if I could watch her kids that same afternoon because her husband was out of town again and she had a sudden work emergency. I told her no, explaining that I had work commitments and couldn't just drop everything. She got upset, saying I was being selfish and accusing me of not caring about family. I tried to explain my side calmly, but she kept pressing, even sending messages like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and you're my only option. I didn't respond after that and hoped she'd figure something else out. That weekend, Jess called me again, asking if the kids could stay with me for the entire weekend because she and her husband wanted to go out of town. This time, I firmly said no. I told her I wasn't comfortable taking care of her kids for a whole weekend with no notice, and that it was too much for me to handle on short notice, especially without any plans discussed ahead of time. She reacted very badly. She started accusing me of being a terrible sister and bad aunt, and said I was abandoning her. She also told her parents, who then called me to ask why I wasn't willing to help out family. I explained to them that I love my niece and nephew, but that babysitting is a big responsibility and I can't just drop everything at a moment's notice, especially for an extended stay. I offered to help if we could plan in advance, but apparently that wasn't good enough. Since then, Jess has been cold toward me and has been posting passive-aggressive stuff on social media about family not helping each other, without naming me directly, but clearly referring to me. My parents are trying to stay neutral, but it feels like they're subtly siding with Jess. A few days ago, Jess showed up at my apartment unannounced with her kids, saying she had nowhere else to go. I told her firmly that this wasn't okay and that I wasn't prepared to host them. She got angry and said I was making her and the kids suffer because of my selfishness. The whole thing has spiraled out of control, and I feel like I'm being painted as the villain in this situation. I want to support my sister, but I also need boundaries. I'm not a free babysitter, and I'm not okay with being guilt-tripped or manipulated into caring for her children on her schedule. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to babysit on such short notice and for setting these boundaries with my sister? Or should I just suck it up and help her whenever she asks because family comes first? AITA for refusing to give my sister's wedding dress to her when she waited too long to order it? This all started about a year ago, and honestly, it's been eating at me ever since. I never imagined I'd be in a position where I had to choose between family loyalty and standing my ground. But here we are. My sister, let's call her Emily, has always been a bit of a procrastinator. Not in every aspect of her life, but when it comes to important stuff, she tends to wait until the last minute. I, on the other hand, have always been more on top of things. I'm older by 5 years, and growing up, I was the responsible one, while she was the free spirit. About 2 years ago, I got engaged. I was super excited and immediately started planning my wedding. One of the first things I did was order my dress. I bought it from a boutique, and it took nearly a year to arrive because it was custom-made. I knew how important the timing was and started early, so I wouldn't have to stress. Emily got engaged about a year after me. So last summer, she began planning her wedding, which is scheduled for this fall. She called me up in a panic a couple of months ago, saying she hadn't ordered her wedding dress yet, and that the boutique she wanted to order from was now completely booked and wouldn't take any new orders with her timeline. I was pretty shocked. We had talked about wedding planning before, and she never mentioned she was close to running out of time. I asked if she had checked other places, but she insisted that she wanted this specific dress from this specific boutique because it was perfect and she didn't want to compromise. Here's where the story gets complicated. I had ordered an extra dress from the same boutique when I got mine. It was a backup because I wasn't 100% sure about the fit or style, so I figured I'd keep it just in case. I never wore it. It's been sitting in my closet ever since. Emily asked me if she could borrow or have that dress since the boutique wouldn't make another one for her on such short notice. I told her I would think about it because the dress wasn't exactly the one she wanted and it might not fit her perfectly, but I was willing to help her out. Over the next week, Emily kept pressuring me. She said it was the perfect solution and that since I wasn't using the dress, it would be better off with her than just sitting in my closet. She even said, I can just get it altered. It won't be a big deal. I finally told her that I wasn't comfortable giving it to her because the dress was custom made for me. It might not fit her properly and alterations could be really expensive and complicated. Also, I felt like since she had waited so long, it was unfair to expect me to just hand over a dress that wasn't even hers. I said she should consider looking for another dress or maybe find a different boutique that could do a rush order or buy secondhand. She got really upset and accused me of being selfish and not supporting her during one of the most important moments of her life. She said I was making this about me when it should be about her happiness. Our parents got involved, with them telling me to just give her the dress and stop making a fuss. They said family is about helping each other and that I was being unreasonable. I told them that I wasn't trying to be difficult, but this dress was mine and I had every right to keep it. Also, it's not just about the dress. It's about the fact that Emily waited too long and now wants to rely on me to fix her problem. I suggested she be more proactive and responsible in the future. The last time we talked, she said she's disappointed in me and that our relationship might never be the same. I feel bad about it, but I also think she should take responsibility for her own decisions instead of expecting me to bail her out. So, AITA for refusing to give my sister the wedding dress she wants, even though she waited too long to order it herself? Or am I justified in wanting to keep something that was made for me and not hers? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of the dress code she imposed? This whole situation has spiraled out of control, and I'm honestly at a loss. I'm 28F, and my sister, 30F, is getting married in about 2 months. We used to be pretty close, but lately things have been tense. The root of the issue is her wedding dress code and my reaction to it. So here's the background. My sister and her fiancé have planned a very formal and glamorous wedding. They're having it in a fancy venue, and the invitation clearly states that the dress code is black tie only. That by itself wouldn't be a problem if it were a normal black tie event. But she added this additional rule that the dress code needs to be strictly followed with no exceptions, and, to top it off, all female guests must wear dresses or skirts, no pantsuits allowed. She specifically mentioned this because she said it's part of her vision and she doesn't want anything casual or masculine on display. She also said the groom's family will be very traditional, and this is something they care deeply about. Now, here's the thing. I don't own any dresses or skirts. For the last few years, I've mostly worn tailored pantsuits to work events and formal occasions because that's what I'm comfortable in. I tried dresses in the past, and it always felt weird and restrictive. On top of that, I'm plus-sized, and it's very hard to find dresses that fit me comfortably and that I actually like. Pantsuits fit my style and my body way better, so that's what I usually wear for formal stuff. When I saw the dress code, I was worried, but I figured I could rent or buy a dress just for the day. I started looking, and the options were either ridiculously expensive or unflattering. When I told my sister I was struggling to find a dress I'd be comfortable wearing, she basically told me that this was not negotiable and that I had to comply if I wanted to be part of her special day. She even said that if I didn't wear a dress or skirt, I wouldn't be allowed to attend. I was hurt by how rigid she was about this. I tried explaining that it's not just about being picky, it's about what makes me comfortable and confident, and pantsuits are my equivalent of formal wear. She said the dress or skirt rule was non-negotiable because it's part of her cultural tradition and her fiancé's family's expectations, and that she was compromising enough by allowing me to wear black tie instead of full traditional attire. I told her I understood her point, but asked if we could find some middle ground, like a chic skirt suit or a dressy jumpsuit. She shut that down pretty quickly, saying jumpsuits were too casual and not elegant enough for the event. At this point, I started to feel like she wasn't valuing my feelings or preferences. I felt like she was prioritizing appearances and tradition over the fact that this is her sister, someone who should be supported no matter what. So I told her I wasn't going to buy or rent a dress just to please her or her fiancé's family. And if that meant I wasn't invited, so be it. After that, she blew up at me. She called me selfish, ungrateful, and said that I was throwing away family over something so trivial. She said it was ridiculous that I wouldn't make one small effort for her big day, and that I was making her and her fiancé look bad. She even said that other family members were talking about me behind my back, and that I was the black sheep. We haven't really spoken since then, except for some tense texts where she kept insisting that she just want a perfect day, and that if I loved her, I'd comply. I'm honestly devastated because I love my sister and want to support her, but I also feel like this dress code demand is unfair and exclusionary. I'm proud of who I am and what I'm comfortable wearing, and I don't think anyone should be forced to dress in a way that makes them uncomfortable just to fit someone else's idea of elegance or tradition. My parents are split on this. My mom says I should just get a dress to keep the peace, and my dad says the dress code sounds ridiculous and that the wedding is more important than arbitrary rules. Some friends say I'm being stubborn and that I should just suck it up for one day. Others say my sister is being controlling and unreasonable. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I won't follow her strict dress code? Thanks in advance. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my husband? This all started about 2 years ago, but the recent events pushed me to my breaking point, so I need to get this off my chest and maybe get an outside perspective. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 29F. We were pretty close growing up, but things started to get complicated after Emily got engaged last year. I'm married to Mark, 35M, and we've been together for 6 years. We're pretty normal, work hard, have a cozy life, and try to keep family matters peaceful. Emily got engaged to her fiancé, Jason, last summer. From the beginning, I noticed some tension between Jason and Mark. Nothing major at first, but Jason has a very particular personality, and Mark is the kind of guy who's laid back and funny. They just didn't click. That's fine. You don't have to like everyone. Where things got complicated is Emily's attitude toward Mark. She suddenly started acting like Mark was an outsider and subtly, sometimes not so subtly, blamed him for everything that didn't go perfectly in wedding planning. At first, I thought maybe she was stressed and overwhelmed. Planning a wedding is hard. But then it got worse. Emily started excluding Mark from important events related to the wedding, like the dress fittings, the tasting, even some family meetings. When I tried to ask her why, she brushed me off or said, "It's just easier this way." At family dinners, she would make snide comments about Mark's lack of sophistication or how he wasn't the right fit for her new family. I confronted her about this, trying to stay calm and understanding, but she doubled down. The breaking point was a few months ago when we went to a pre-wedding gathering at Emily's fiancé's family house. Mark was quietly talking with some relatives, trying to be polite, when Jason walked up and rudely interrupted, telling Mark that he should stop embarrassing everyone. It was so sudden and humiliating that I was speechless. I pulled Mark away, and we left early. After that, I tried to talk to Emily again, asking her why Jason and she were treating Mark this way. Emily said that Jason didn't like Mark's attitude and that she agreed with him. She said she didn't want any drama before the wedding and implied that if I wanted to keep peace, I should get Mark to tone it down. I was shocked. Mark hasn't done anything except be himself. He's never been rude or disruptive. He just doesn't mesh with Jason's vibe, and Emily seems to be choosing her fiancé over her own brother's happiness. Fast forward to last week. Emily formally invited us to the wedding. I asked if Mark would be involved in the rehearsal dinner or any other pre-wedding events, and she said no, that they were keeping things small and didn't want to complicate things with Mark there. I talked to Mark about it, and he's hurt, but doesn't want to cause a scene. I want to support my sister, but not at the cost of my husband's dignity. So here's the thing. I told Emily that we wouldn't be attending the wedding if Mark wasn't welcome. Emily flipped out. She called me selfish and said I was ruining her day and that Mark was making it all about himself. Now, my parents are caught in the middle. They want us all to come, saying it's just a day and family should come together, but I feel like this is about more than just a day. It's about respect and boundaries. Am I the asshole for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she and Jason are treating my husband? Or should I just bite the bullet and go for the sake of family? I feel stuck. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she completely disrespected my fiancé and me. This has been weighing on me for months now, and I really need an outside perspective because I honestly don't know if I'm the asshole here or if my sister and her fiancé are just being unreasonable. So, some background. I, 28F, have been with my fiancé, Jake, 30M, for about 3 years. We're engaged for nearly a year now, and we've been planning our own wedding while also trying to support my sister, 26F, Emily, who announced her engagement about 6 months after we did. Emily and I have always been close, but our relationship has been strained lately because of wedding drama. Emily is planning a big, traditional wedding with her fiancé, Chris. It's all very grand. Huge venue, elaborate decorations, lots of guests. Jake and I decided on a more intimate, casual affair because that fits our personalities better. So far, so good. Where things started to go wrong was at Emily's engagement party. She invited me, Jake, and my parents. The party was at a fancy restaurant, and it seemed like a nice event. However, Chris's family is incredibly wealthy and pretty socially influential, and they made it clear that they expected the event to go a certain way. During the party, Emily's friends and family made some snide comments about Jake's background. He works in a blue-collar job, is from a working-class family, and isn't from the same social circle as Chris's family. I brushed it off because Jake doesn't care about that stuff, but it was awkward and uncomfortable. Then, when it was time for speeches, Chris's mother gave a long, rather condescending speech about keeping the family's reputation intact and how Emily was marrying up. I was shocked, and Jake looked visibly upset. After the speech, Emily didn't say anything to defend Jake or even acknowledge him directly. The following week, Emily called me and said she wanted to talk. I thought maybe she wanted to smooth things over, but instead, she told me that Jake and I weren't fitting in with her wedding plans. She said that Chris's family was uncomfortable with Jake being so involved in the wedding because he doesn't come from their world and that she didn't want Jake standing up in the wedding party. I was blindsided. Jake and I had already been included in some planning meetings, and I thought Emily was okay with him being a groomsman. But she insisted that he couldn't be, that she wanted people who understand the family's values in the wedding party. I told Emily that Jake is my fiancé and that if we're going to be involved in each other's lives, she needs to respect that. I also reminded her that weddings are about family and love, not social status. She replied that she didn't want to hear about my working-class drama ruining her perfect day. We argued, and it ended with Emily saying she didn't want to invite Jake at all if he was going to cause a scene. I was furious, but tried to be calm and asked her what exactly Jake supposedly did wrong. Emily couldn't give a concrete answer, only vague comments about attitude and not fitting in. I called Jake to update him, and he was devastated. We talked about whether we should even attend the wedding if we weren't welcome as a couple, and we decided that Jake wouldn't go if he wasn't included in the wedding party, as it felt humiliating. Since then, Emily has been cold to me and hasn't really talked about the wedding except to remind me that the guest list is tight. She invited our parents, but said Jake was not welcome. I offered to come alone, but she said it would be weird without my fiancé. My parents are caught in the middle. They want us to reconcile and attend the wedding, but they also say Emily needs to treat Jake with respect. Our friends have mixed opinions, with some saying Emily has the right to plan her wedding how she wants, and others saying she's being unfair and elitist. Now, the wedding is next month, and Jake and I have decided not to attend because of how we've been treated and because it's clear Emily doesn't want us there as a couple. My parents are disappointed but supportive of our decision. Emily has been posting on social media about how she's cutting out toxic people and keeping her special day pure. She hasn't spoken to me directly since our last conversation. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she excluded my fiancé and insulted him? Should I just suck it up and go for family's sake? Or is it fair to stand my ground here? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she invited my abusive ex to the ceremony? This situation has been a huge mess in my family, and I'm still trying to figure out if I'm actually the jerk here or if I'm justified in how I handled it. I'll try to give all the details to make it clear. A little background. I'm 28F and my sister, Emily, is 30F. We were close growing up, but over the past few years, our relationship has been strained. I dated my ex, Jake, for about 2 years. It was an awful relationship. He was emotionally abusive and manipulative, and I finally got the courage to break up with him a year ago. It was a very toxic time, and I had to distance myself completely from him to recover. I also leaned heavily on my family for support during that time, and thankfully my sister was there for me. Fast forward to now. Emily is getting married in 2 months. When she told me the news, I was genuinely happy for her. We talked about her fiancé and the wedding plans. Everything seemed normal until I got the wedding invitation in the mail. On the invite, I saw Jake's name listed under the guest section. I was stunned. I immediately messaged Emily to ask why Jake was invited. She replied that Jake is friends with her fiancé's family and that they invited him, and Emily didn't want to cause drama by uninviting him. She said it was just a friendly gesture and that she expected me to just get over it. I was furious and hurt. I told her I couldn't possibly attend a wedding where my abuser would be present. I reminded her of everything Jake put me through, how much I struggled after our breakup, and how her inviting him felt like a betrayal. Emily's response was cold and dismissive. She told me that I was being overly sensitive, that the past was in the past, and that I was making it all about myself. She also said that since Jake was invited by her fiancé's side, it was out of her control. I decided to decline the invitation. I told Emily that I loved her, but I couldn't be at her wedding if Jake was going to be there. I also warned her that if she expected me to play nice with Jake at the wedding, that wasn't going to happen. This caused a huge family fallout. My parents called me and told me to reconsider, that Emily was just trying to keep peace, and that Jake might not even come. They said I was making a mountain out of a molehill, and that family should come together for the wedding. Meanwhile, Emily started talking to other family members, painting me as the unreasonable one who was stirring up drama before the wedding. My sister even told our parents I was refusing to forgive and was ruining the family's happiness. A week ago, Emily's fiancé reached out to me personally. He said he didn't realize the history between Jake and me and apologized if the invitation caused any pain. He said he was willing to talk to Jake about not coming to the wedding, but Emily was insistent on keeping Jake on the list because of his connection to her fiancé's family. I appreciated the fiancé's understanding, but was still stuck because Emily wouldn't budge. Since then, I have stayed firm. I told Emily and my parents that if Jake attends, I won't be there. My parents accused me of forcing Emily to make an ultimatum, which they said was unfair. Emily called me selfish and said I was choosing my grudge over family. Now, some of my extended family are starting to take sides. A few relatives have expressed support for me, saying I shouldn't be forced into an uncomfortable and unsafe environment. Others think I'm being dramatic and ruining the wedding vibe. I just want to know, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she invited my abusive ex? Should I have swallowed my pride for the sake of family peace? Or is it reasonable to protect myself from someone who caused me so much pain? I'm really torn. I want my sister to be happy, but I don't think I can put myself through that. What do you think? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my son? This is going to be long, but I want to give all the context so people can understand why I'm so upset and why I made the decision I did. I, 38M, have a son, Liam, who just turned 7. He's on the autism spectrum and needs a bit more patience and understanding than most kids his age. I'm divorced from Liam's mother, but she and I have a decent co-parenting arrangement. My sister, Kate, 35F, is getting married next month, and she's been planning this wedding for almost 2 years. Everyone in the family was super excited about it until things started to get tense. Kate and I have always had a somewhat competitive relationship. It's never been outright hostile, but there's been a lot of subtle judgment and passive-aggressive comments, especially about my parenting style and my son. Kate and her husband-to-be, Mark, are very traditional and have strong opinions about what is proper behavior, especially for children. For years, Kate would make little comments at family gatherings about how difficult Liam is or how she doesn't understand why we don't just discipline him more. That all came to a head during the wedding planning. When Kate asked me if Liam would be coming, I told her yes. Then she started dropping hints that the wedding would be a formal event and that children should be on their best behavior. At first, I didn't think much of it, but then the guest list came out, and it was clear that only very young kids under 3 were invited, no exceptions. I reached out to Kate and asked about Liam, and she said, "It's just a really important day, and we don't want disruptions. It's not fair to the other guests." I explained to her that Liam is 7 and wouldn't be disruptive if accommodations were made. I asked if we could maybe have a quiet corner for him or if he could have a friend with him to help manage him if needed. Kate replied that the wedding was not a daycare and that if Liam couldn't behave like a normal child, he should stay home. I was stunned. I talked to my ex, who agreed that Liam would be fine with some support and that Kate was being unreasonable. I also talked to my parents, who seemed to side with Kate, saying, "It's a special day, and it's just easier without the stress." I felt completely isolated. The final straw was when Kate sent out an email to close family and friends, outlining the wedding etiquette. In it, she mentioned that children are not guests, and that parents should be responsible for their behavior or make other arrangements. She included a section that seemed to single out my son's needs indirectly, emphasizing that this is a formal occasion and that anyone who cannot respect that should reconsider attending. I decided I couldn't support this wedding if my son wasn't welcome or treated with disrespect. I told Kate I wouldn't attend if Liam wasn't invited and made it clear that her stance felt hurtful and discriminatory. She responded by saying I was making this about Liam and ruining what should be a happy time. She also told my parents that I was being selfish and demanding special treatment. I did try to compromise. I suggested that Liam and I could come for the ceremony and then leave before the reception, or that we could sit in a quieter area, but she refused. The wedding is next week, and I told Kate that Liam and I won't be coming. Now, my parents are upset with me, saying I'm being difficult and putting Liam's needs above family. My friends mostly support me, saying Kate is being unfair, but some say I should just bite the bullet and go for the sake of family harmony. I don't want to create drama or be the problem at the wedding, but I also don't want to teach Liam that he's not welcome or that his needs don't matter. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my son. AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law be around my kids after what she did at Christmas. This is a long one, so bear with me. I, 34F, have 2 kids, ages 6 and 4. My husband, 36M, and I have been married for 8 years, and his sister, Jenna, 29F, has always been a bit of a wild card in the family. She's known for being dramatic and somewhat selfish, but I've tried to be patient and give her the benefit of the doubt for years because she's my kid's aunt. Over time, though, things have escalated to a point where I honestly don't think it's safe or healthy for my children to be around her anymore. The main incident happened this past Christmas, but it's been building for a while. Let me backtrack a bit. Jenna has struggled with some personal issues, mostly related to addiction and unstable relationships. My husband and I have always tried to support her, offering help, listening, and giving her space to grow. But there have been consistent red flags with how she interacts with the kids. For example, she has a habit of undermining our parenting. She often questions how we discipline or feed them, pushing her own outdated or frankly weird ideas. She's also super dramatic and tends to make everything about her, which I always chalked up to her personality. The biggest issue is that she doesn't respect boundaries. We've asked her multiple times not to bring her new boyfriend around the kids until we get to know them, and she always ignores us. A few years ago, she even showed up drunk at a birthday party we hosted for our son. We confronted her privately, and she promised to behave, but it wasn't the last time. Now, Christmas. We decided to host a family gathering at our house. We invited my husband's immediate family, his parents, his sister Jenna, and her boyfriend, and my parents. We wanted it to be a peaceful, kid-friendly day. We made clear rules for the kids' routines, gifts, and so on. Everything started fine. Jenna arrived late with her boyfriend, who was okay as far as I could tell. The kids were excited, the food was delicious, and the presents were being exchanged. But then, Jenna started acting strangely. She became very argumentative about the gifts the kids were opening. She loudly criticized the toys we had chosen for them, saying things like they don't need more plastic junk, and you're spoiling them too much. I tried to keep it calm and told her this wasn't the time to argue about parenting choices. She ignored me. Then, she started talking about her alternative parenting ideas in front of the kids, making comments about how we shouldn't be so controlling and how kids need to learn to be free spirits. I asked her again, firmly, to stop involving herself in how we raise our children. Things escalated when Jenna decided to take the kids upstairs without telling anyone. She said she wanted to show them some cool things in her room. My 6-year-old came back upset and crying a little later, saying Jenna told her she shouldn't listen to mommy and daddy all the time, and that rules are just made up by boring adults. That was the breaking point for me. I told Jenna that she needed to leave immediately because she was disrespecting our household and, more importantly, our children's well-being. She refused at first, saying she was family and had the right to be there. My husband backed me up, and eventually Jenna left, slamming the door behind her. Since then, I have told my husband that Jenna is no longer allowed to be around our kids unsupervised, or at all, really, until she shows some serious commitment to respecting our family's rules and boundaries. He is torn because it's his sister, but he agrees that what she did was unacceptable. The problem now is Jenna has gone to my in-laws, crying and telling them I'm being controlling and unfair. She's painting me as the villain who's trying to cut her out of her nephew's lives. My in-laws are upset with me, saying I should forgive and forget, and that Jenna doesn't mean any harm. My parents and close friends support me, but my husband is feeling the pressure from his family, and it's causing tension between us. Jenna has also started texting my kids, which I find super creepy and inappropriate given everything. I blocked her from contacting them directly, but she's trying to use my husband to communicate. I'm sticking to my guns because I honestly feel like I'm protecting my kids. I want them to grow up in a safe and stable environment, not around someone who undermines our authority and messes with their emotional security. So, AITA for cutting Jenna off from my kids and enforcing a strict no-contact policy until she respects our family's rules? Or am I being too harsh and should just let things slide for the sake of family harmony? AITA for refusing to let my sister and her 2 kids move in with us indefinitely, even though my husband says I'm being unreasonable. I, 35F, have been married to my husband, David, 38M, for 10 years. We have 3 kids, Emily, 8F, Noah, 5M, and Mia, 2F. We live in a 4-bedroom house in a quiet suburb. David works long hours in IT, and I run a small daycare business from home. We have a pretty structured and busy life, balancing work, school, and family activities. My sister, Sarah, 33F, has had a rough couple of years. She lost her job last year due to company downsizing and has been struggling to find stable work since then. She has 2 kids, Jake, 7M, and Lily, 4F, and lives in a 1-bedroom apartment with them. Recently, her landlord sold the building, and she was given a very short notice to vacate. She reached out to me asking if she and her kids could move in for a while until she got back on her feet. I was sympathetic, but I was hesitant. Our house is not huge, and while we have an extra bedroom and a small basement room we could convert, I was concerned about how adding 2 more kids and an adult would affect the dynamics of our family. Plus, I was worried about space, privacy, and how it would affect my business running out of the house. I told Sarah that she could stay with us temporarily, maybe a week or 2, to figure things out, but I emphasized that we could not accommodate them indefinitely. I offered to help her look for affordable housing, help with job applications, and support in any way that didn't involve moving in permanently. She seemed to understand, but the tone wasn't very clear. David, however, was very supportive of Sarah moving in long term. He said families should always help each other, especially in tough times. He said I was being too cautious and not empathetic enough. I told him that my reservations were practical. Our house is full. The kids need space and routines, and my daycare business needs quiet and order. He said I was overthinking and that we could all adjust. A few days later, Sarah arrived with her 2 kids and most of her belongings. She said she wasn't sure how long she would stay, but she wanted to take some time to settle. Initially, I tried to be welcoming. I set up the basement room for her kids, turned the extra bedroom into her room, and tried to coordinate schedules. But almost immediately, tensions arose. Sarah expected me to accommodate her and her kids fully. She wanted me to help watch her children during my daycare hours without contributing financially, expecting that since it was family, I would just pitch in. She often complained about how I ran my business and accused me of being too strict with the daycare kids. She also expected me to cook meals for her family or coordinate shared meals, which added to my workload. She and David would often argue about how much help she was getting from me. David accused me of being unhelpful and cold toward his sister, saying I needed to step up because family comes first. I tried to set boundaries, explaining that I was not refusing help, but that I needed to protect my business, my family space, and my own sanity. David often dismissed my concerns, saying I was making a big deal out of nothing. Sarah started inviting her friends over without asking, which disrupted my daycare business and caused discomfort for our family. She and her kids frequently used the living room and kitchen at odd hours, sometimes late at night, which disturbed our kids' sleep schedules. The noise and chaos began to affect our children's behavior. Emily became anxious, Noah started having tantrums, and Mia was frequently irritable. I brought this up with Sarah and David, but Sarah accused me of being selfish and inconsiderate, saying that she was going through a crisis and deserved support. David said I was prioritizing my business over family, and that I needed to be more compassionate. Despite my efforts to find alternative housing and jobs for Sarah, progress was slow. She seemed comfortable living here indefinitely, taking our kindness for granted. David continued to support her staying, and this has caused significant tension in our marriage. We argue regularly about the situation, and I feel like my home and family are being undermined. I want to support my sister, but I also need to protect the stability of my household and my business. I've tried compromise, but it hasn't worked. David says I'm being unreasonable and selfish, while Sarah feels unwelcome. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move in indefinitely, even though my husband says I'm being unreasonable and lacking family loyalty. AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law's kids stay in my house during their summer visit, even though it caused a huge family rift. I, 34M, live with my wife, 32F, and our 2 kids, 5F and 2M, in a modest suburban home. We bought this house about 3 years ago, and it's our first family home. We love it, but space is definitely limited. We have 3 bedrooms total, 1 for us, 1 for the kids, and a small guest room that we usually keep tidy, but don't use often because we have a tight schedule with work and kids' school activities. My wife's brother, Ben, 36M, and his wife, Laura, 35F, have 4 kids aged between 3 and 10. They live out of state, about a 6-hour drive away. Every summer, Ben's family comes to visit for about 3 weeks. Their visits have always been a bit tricky for us because of space and logistics, but I've usually tried to be accommodating because my wife's family is close-knit and we want to maintain good relationships. Last year was the first time I really pushed back on the arrangements. Ben and Laura had asked if all 4 kids could stay with us while they went on a short trip to visit other relatives nearby. This was a last-minute request. The idea was that the parents would drop the kids off at our place and be away for 4 days. We'd be responsible for the kids during that time. We have 2 kids of our own, and the guest room is pretty small. It's not really designed for 4 kids, plus our own 2. That's a lot of extra chaos and noise, and I was already feeling stressed with my job. I told them I didn't think it was feasible and that it would be better if they either all stayed at their hotel or rented a separate place for the kids, or better yet, maybe they could rearrange their trip so one of the parents could stay with the kids. Ben got pretty defensive and said it was family, and we should be willing to help out. Laura said I was being unreasonable and that the kids are family too, so we should welcome them with open arms. My wife sided with me privately, but was worried about how it would affect the bigger family dynamic. I stood firm and said no, we couldn't manage that many kids in our small house, especially for 4 days straight. In the end, Ben and Laura ended up finding a local sitter, and the kids didn't stay with us. But the fallout was immediate. Ben stopped inviting us to family gatherings and barely speaks to my wife anymore. Laura sent my wife a long message saying I was cold and not a real family man. My wife and I have had multiple arguments about how to handle the situation, but I feel like I was justified given the circumstances. This summer, Ben's family is coming again. This time, Ben asked if their kids could stay with us the whole 3 weeks. He mentioned his in-laws are coming too, and the house will be crowded. So they were hoping to offload the kids on us more often so they can spend time with the adults. I immediately said no again. I explained that we don't have the space or capacity to care for 6 kids, including ours, for that long, especially when we have work and our usual routine. Ben was furious and said I was selfish and that I didn't care about family. Laura has been texting my wife nonstop, trying to convince her to persuade me. My wife is torn because she wants to keep peace but also agrees that our house can't handle that many kids. She's afraid this will further damage our relationship with Ben's family. I'm also worried about how we'd manage our own kids and our mental health with that many kids in the house for weeks. At this point, Ben's family is threatening to cancel their visit entirely, and the tension in our extended family has reached an all-time high. My wife keeps asking if maybe I should just give in, but I honestly think it's unreasonable to expect us to take on such a huge responsibility without any support or preparation. AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law's kids stay with us during their summer visit, even though it's caused a big family rift. AITA for refusing to give my sister's daughter away at my wedding, even though she begged and pleaded for me to. This is a long one, and honestly, I'm still fuming about how things played out. I'm 30F, getting married to my fiancé, 32M, in about 2 months. The whole planning process has been intense, but mostly smooth until recently. So here's some background. I have a younger sister, Emma, 27F, who's always been a little dramatic and kind of the center of attention in our family. She has a daughter, Lily, who is 8 years old and super sweet, but also quite shy and quiet. Emma and I haven't been super close since she moved across the country a few years ago, but we keep in touch. My fiancé and I agreed from the start that the wedding would be a grown-up affair with a small guest list. We didn't want a ton of kids running around, and neither of us particularly likes the chaos that comes with including young children in formal events. That being said, I knew Emma would bring Lily, and that was fine by me. I made sure to let Emma know that Lily was welcome, but that we didn't want her to be part of the ceremony itself. No flower girl or ring bearer roles. Just a guest. Fast forward to last week. Emma calls me out of the blue and starts pleading. She wants Lily to be the flower girl. She said it would mean the world to Lily and that it would be a special memory for all of us. I told her that I appreciated her feelings, but that my fiancé and I had already planned the ceremony and that we wanted the bridal party to be made up of adults only. I explained that we wanted a simple, elegant wedding and that kids in the wedding party could complicate things. Emma got upset, but said she'd think about it. Then 2 days ago, Emma texted me again. She said Lily was really heartbroken and begged me personally to change my mind. She even said Lily was practicing walking down the aisle and wanted to be the center of attention for once. I told Emma, once again, no. I was firm but polite. Yesterday, I get a message from my mother. She said that Emma had called her, crying, saying that I was being unfair and that Lily was crushed. My mom suggested maybe I should reconsider because it was just one small thing and that I shouldn't ruin Lily's happiness. Here's where things got ugly. I stood my ground and told my mom I wasn't changing my mind. I don't think it's unfair. It's my wedding, and I get to decide what the ceremony looks like. My mom got upset and said I was being cold and selfish. I reminded her that Lily would still be there as a guest, and nothing was stopping her from having fun at the reception. Emma, meanwhile, sent me a long message accusing me of not caring about family and making Lily feel invisible. She said she might not come to the wedding if I didn't let Lily be the flower girl. At this point, I'm stressed and unsure what to do. I don't want to alienate my sister, but I also don't want to give up my vision for my wedding. I'm also annoyed that my mom is siding with Emma when I feel like I'm being reasonable. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my niece be the flower girl, even though she begged and my sister and mom think I'm being unfair. Some extra details in case they help. We already chose the bridal party, just my best friends and fiancés. None of them are children. It's been planned for months. We're having a formal wedding with about 50 guests in a nice venue. The ceremony is indoors, and there's no space for a big kids' corner or distractions. Emma is a bit dramatic in general and tends to pull emotional stunts to get what she wants. I did offer to let Lily have a special role in the reception if she wanted, like maybe helping hand out favors or something simple. But Emma didn't seem interested. Lily is a lovely kid, and I love her, but I also don't want to make my sister's demand about my wedding day. I'm stuck because I don't want to hurt anyone, but I also want to have the wedding I envisioned. What would you do? AITA for refusing to give my sister access to my late mother's inheritance because she needs it more, even though it was legally left to me. This situation has been unfolding over the past year, and it's put me in a really uncomfortable position with my family. I'm 33F, and my younger sister, Amy, is 29. Our mother passed away about a year ago after a long illness, and the aftermath has been messy in more ways than one. To give some background, my mom was a single parent, and she was always very clear with us that she wanted to leave her estate to me because I was the one who took care of her in her final years. I was her primary caregiver, managing her medications, appointments, and basically running the household while she was ill. Amy lived in a different city, has a family of her own, and visited occasionally, but wasn't involved much in day-to-day care. When Mom passed, the will was read. She left everything, her house, savings, and investments, to me. Amy was upset, but the lawyer made it clear that this was Mom's legal decision, and it was backed by documentation. I respected that this was Mom's choice, even though I was sad that it caused a rift. The inheritance isn't huge, but it's enough to pay off my mortgage and secure my financial future. I was relieved because caregiving is emotionally and financially draining, and this gave me some peace of mind. Amy has since been trying to get a share of the inheritance, arguing that she needs it more because her family is struggling financially. She said she feels it's unfair that I'm getting everything when she contributed nothing during Mom's illness, and that the estate should be split equally or at least shared with her for the sake of fairness. I have explained multiple times that the will is clear and that legally I'm the rightful owner of everything. I'm not refusing to help Amy in general. I've lent her money in the past when she was in a tight spot, and I try to be supportive in other ways. But I don't feel obligated to give her part of an inheritance that was explicitly left to me because I was the one who sacrificed to care for our mom. She's gotten increasingly hostile. She's made public accusations that I stole from her, that I'm greedy and selfish. She's involved other family members, some of whom are sympathetic to her because they believe siblings should share everything equally regardless of the will. They've pressured me to do the right thing and share the inheritance with Amy. I don't want to cause family drama, but I also don't think I should be forced to hand over what was legally and morally designated to me. It's been really hard watching Amy blame me for something that was mom's decision, not mine. Plus, the caregiving was exhausting and affected my mental health, so I think the inheritance is a recognition of that. There was an incident recently at a family gathering where Amy confronted me loudly, accusing me of ruining our family and being cold-hearted. I stood my ground and told her I respected mom's wishes and that the inheritance wasn't something I was willing to share against my mother's clear instructions. Now, some family members have started distancing themselves from me, and Amy refuses to talk to me. I feel isolated and misunderstood. I want to keep peace, but also stand up for myself. So, AITA for refusing to share my late mother's inheritance with my sister, even though she says she needs it more, and that it should be split equally? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.